Freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Welcome one and all, you're watching What on Earth is Happening. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. Ladies and gentlemen, government is slavery. And here on What on Earth is Happening, we are ending slavery one mind at a time. Thank you for tuning in today. Today is Sunday, February 12th, 2023. This is episode number 465 of What on Earth is Happening. I'm sorry, 265. We haven't done that many shows yet. Episode 265 of What on Earth is Happening. And please keep in mind, What on Earth is Happening is a tapestry of cumulative material. That means that later shows, such as this one, will have prerequisites in information that come in the earlier shows. So it's a linear progression of information. Please keep that in mind, and that means that if you're a new viewer to the show, you should not watch from this point. You should go back to show number 1, and you should watch and listen and watch all of the podcasts in order at your own pace. You will get maximum value from that. And again, I get pushback from that from a lot of people, and they say, that's not true, that doesn't need to be done. Yes, it does. And people think that they understand when they do not. They believe that they have all the information that they require, and yet there's still basically people who aren't doing anything, whose names aren't publicly out there, who have no public information of their own, and will make statements such as that. Clearly haven't heard anything that I'm saying from day one. Not really. Again, believing that you understand what someone is saying is different than actually understanding it. And that's a very difficult thing for people who are in a solid foundation of pure ego to understand. They haven't done that shadow work. They haven't done that internal work upon themselves. They will spout that they believe that they know the information. And, if you've really gone through the information in this podcast series, then you're a person that knows that you yourself has to take action. It's not about leaving it to anyone else. It's not about externalizing your power. It's about taking action in the very real world yourself, which takes a lot of personal responsibility to take that upon oneself. And again, it's not about memeing on Facebook. It's about putting a permanent record out there in a formalized way. Again, the formula is to formalize and immortalize. You formalize the information and you put it out there in a way that is immortalized. So that having been said, let's jump into some announcements, and then I'm basically going to talk, myself for this podcast. There's not many slides. It's just announcement slides. And then we'll go to the phones and see what people think about, the general topic. So let's jump over to the laptop. Thank you to Will Keller for the great artwork for this episode. This episode is entitled Human Consciousness Checkpoint 2023. And I like to do at least one human consciousness checkpoint show each season of What on Earth is Happening, because this lets people know where we're really at. How well or poorly are we doing? And I think gauging this and gauging it from a realistic perspective, not a doom and gloom black-pilled perspective, and not a wild-eyed optimist seeing the world through rose-colored glasses, New Ager perspective, but seeing it from a balanced and realistic and pragmatic perspective of where humanity really is at in consciousness and what our work is to do. So this is coming up on this episode of What on Earth is Happening, my analysis of human consciousness in the year 2023. And again, what better time to do an analysis of human consciousness on Super Bowl Sunday, right? I mean, imagine the kind of dullards that are out there with their attention completely going to be completely fixed on the game later on, you know? And I'll probably go to a friend's house and kick back and watch it, or just have it on and talk and listen. But the point is, I'm not obsessed with that. My home team is in the game. Who cares? You know? It's like, I'm not obsessed with sports ball games, you know? I'm worried about the future of humanity. I'm worried about the future of all of our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all future generations, whether they're going to live free or enslaved. It's what a real man worries about, not a little boy. You know? And I got to tell you, it's just not saying anything bad about sports. I don't really care about sports and sports competition, but there's nothing inherently wrong or immoral with it. It's just, imagine being the kind of a person that's what they're emotionally invested in, instead of what's really going on in the world, and if you are going to be free and if your children are going to be free, you know? No, people won't say a word about that, but they'll know every statistics of every major sports team and, you know, paint their face up and go and dress in their team's colors. We won, we lost. Oh yeah, you did, huh? Oh, you did pretty good out there at the 10-yard line today. Anyway, the point is I think this is a perfect opportunity to assess human consciousness on a day like today, when people's consciousness is focused on such ridiculous, frivolous things as a child game, you know? And get as offended about that as you like, sports fans. Doesn't matter to me, you know, it's still true. So, you know, keep in mind the show is on a new 2-hour format for this season. Maybe we'll go back to 3 hours after I move. We'll see what happens. But for now, it's on a 2-hour schedule, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, from January through June. Starting in July, I host the How to Become the True Media Seminar. What on Earth is Happening? Weekly shows go into hiatus for those months. My BandOnVideo channel is up. I said I was going to get to posting more videos. I got too busy this week again. It's been unbelievably busy here at What on Earth is Happening. I'm trying to get IPFS nodes online. I'll tell you about that. There's good news in that regard. The new One Great Work Network video server is up and operational. I've ironed out all of the kinks. It's working perfectly and flawlessly right now. Very happy about that machine. Thank you to everyone who helped donate for it. I will be getting to posting on BandOnVideo again. I want to post this week my natural law seminar. I think I'll stagger it over the week and post it maybe Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, should I have time. I'm going to try to make the time this week. So please visit my BandOnVideo channel. Right now, my documentary is online there. band.video/channel/Mark-Passio. How to Become the True Media 2023 racing toward us. This will be from July to December this year. Enrollment's going to open April 1st. That's less than 2 months from now. It's an online technology skills sharing seminar hosted by me on the Telegram platform. We debuted this on the Zoom platform a few years back. Then we moved over last year to the Telegram platform for the third variant of it, and the third year. And now the fourth year will continue on Telegram because it went very successfully technologically on Telegram the past season of How to Become the True Media. This seminar will happen every Monday evening, every Monday night, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We open up the Telegram room at 7 p.m. to give people a full hour to get in. And then we go into an after discussion, after class, for a few hours. I usually let the class run until 2 a.m. Eastern Time. So it's a full night and 3 hours of actual class instruction. This takes place this year from Monday, July 10th to Monday, December 11th, 2023, for a total of 23 class sessions. There is limited space available. I will probably be capping this early this year, depending on the enrollments. Again, last year, I did not have to do that. We'll see what happens this year. But my point is, don't wait until the last moment to enroll because I might have to end enrollment early. Enrollment will open at midnight, Saturday, April 1st, 2023. For more information on this great upcoming seminar this year, visit the website howtobecomethitruemedia.com. One Great Work Network going strong on the new video server at onegreatworknetwork.com. Thank you to everyone who donated for that wonderful Mac Studio computer. I'm telling you, it's the fastest machine I've ever worked on in my life. Just tremendous. So thank you to everyone out there who donated and made that happen. We're going to talk about donations briefly because it's very important right now, especially with my move coming up. I definitely need the support coming in the form of donations for especially the equipment that I require. And I am going to require some new equipment this year, as I've said, and as people have seen things. I've ironed things out, but they went rocky at the beginning of this season technologically. And it's largely because the computers that I have are starting to age by today's standards. I wouldn't say they're very old, but in all honesty, software is much more demanding than it once was. And I'm going to have to pick up a new computer for myself and for this show. So I need at least, in addition to the laptop I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have to pick up 2 new computers this year, an additional 2 new computers. The laptop is for presentations in person, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And the M1 Studio that I just was able to purchase due to donations was for One Great Work Network. Now I need a computer for the What on Earth is Happening show. This one's still handling it, but again, it's starting to get long in the tooth, and I will need to replace it. And I personally need a new creative computer for what I create. So I'm going to separate the computers when I move because I will have a studio space set up permanently, more likely than not. And I'm going to use a separate computer for the studio from my creative work. And I'm going to do my creative work elsewhere in another section of the house. So I am going to require 2 additional computers. They're going to be put up on the donations area, the tech donations area of of What on Earth is Happening donation gifts. In any event, one of the other things I want to talk about donations is please support the content creators at One Great Work Network because they need your support. They, are doing tremendous work there. I think we have one of the best sites on the entire internet, quite frankly, with the content that is up there. I mean, there's an endless amount of content to watch, both on the content creators pages and if you simply watch the streaming video on the home page. It's amazing content. Please do support the content creators with donations at onegreatworknetwork.com. So again, a new category in donation gifts. What on Earth is Happening donation gifts at gifts.whatonearthishappening.com. Here's the new category here on the right where the categories are listed if you're in desktop mode. That's the technology donation link on the categories page. And I describe this as crowdsource funding for What on Earth is Happening tech items. Many hands make for light work. The tech donation section of What on Earth is Happening donation gifts makes it possible for supporters of What on Earth is Happening to help fund the purchase of tech items required for What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network, specifically items that are considered too expensive for one single individual to donate for via our existing Amazon technology wish list. So more expensive items I'm going to place here. I'll probably cap Amazon wish list items at under $1,000. If it's anything over that, I'm not going to let one person donate for it alone. We'll move that into the tech donations area of donation gifts, and we'll crowdsource it. So let's check in on this one. I'll step out of the presentation very briefly, and we'll check in and see how this one is doing. So here is the donations gifts website. I'll make this full screen here, and I'll click on categories. So we're in the live web browser right now. And here is the tech donations area right here. So I'll click this link here. And here is the one item that is there, which is the laptop for my upcoming Two Masks, Same Face presentation in September. This is the laptop that I want to present on. It's an M2 MacBook Pro. So you can click that, and then you could donate a range from $50 to $500 for this laptop. After we reach the required donations, I'll be purchasing this laptop with those funds. These funds will only go if you make the donation here at What on Earth is Happening donation gifts in the tech donations section. These donations will only go to fund this item, and then I will purchase it immediately and take down this item. So you could see here, you can make your donation here. And it's not clicking into it. There it is. Okay, so you could donate $50, $100, and all the way up to $500 if you so choose. And donations could be made in any of the methods that I accept on donation gifts, which is like Cash App, GPay, Wise, and 9 different cryptocurrencies. So I think there's 12 donation options. And here you see we've raised $2,850 out of the required $3,500. So what are we at? If we roll over, it should give us the figure. We're at 80%. It's not, there it goes. We're at 81%. So we're at 81% toward the goal, 19% more. Let's try to make that happen this week, if possible. And I thank everyone who donated already. You're making this happen, and I'm going to be able to present on this laptop at my upcoming all-day event, which is next to talk about, I believe. Let me step back into my slides. Oh, yes. Next week on What on Earth is Happening, the great Brandon Martin coming up for an interview next week. Really looking forward to talking to Brandon on What on Earth is Happening. We have some tremendous guests lined up for this season. So Brandon Martin coming up next week on the show. Brandon is one of the co-founders of the Cubbyhole, and he is also, of course, one of the great content creators on One Great Work Network. And here's what I was referring to. My special all-day presentation, Two Masks, Same Face, the dark occult origins of Nazism and communism. Probably about 5 years in the research and development of this one. This is going to be, I think, on the order of my natural law seminar, hopefully. I think I'm really going to explode some information onto the world regarding the connections here, and regarding the continued operation of these religions. Really, they're the same religion in our world today. So we have locked in the venue and date. It is official. It's September 30th, 2023 at the Hightstown Engine Company #1 in Hightstown, New Jersey. Beautiful area. I visited. I went on site this week. It's really beautiful. The room is great. The room is big. Huge screen there, just a really nice facility, and there's really good food nearby around it. We'll be, breaking twice for lunch and dinner. I checked out the surrounding area regarding food and actually ate in Hightstown, and it was wonderful. And just a really very nice area. This is right on the main strip in Hightstown. And it's literally a mile down the road from a couple of nice hotels where people, if they're coming from out of the area, can book and stay. I'll have all of that information very soon on What on Earth is Happening. We'll post it right on the homepage, and I'll announce when donations will be taken for a private invite. I want to let everybody know this is a private, by invitation only event, but the donations will be given, the invites will be given to those who make a donation, a private donation via What on Earth is Happening donation gifts when we put those invites on that site. So you can't just donate randomly for the attendance invite. Okay, we have exactly 200 spaces for this event. We cannot, according to the codes of the building, go beyond 200 people. So I will actually be putting 200 invites on What on Earth is Happening donation gifts soon. And I don't have exactly when that will be, but, this is September, so you figure, we'll probably start it sometime in April or May. Maybe May 1st will be the date that I will put the invites on the site. This way we get an early jump on this because we know the date, and that's a symbolic day in the occult calendar. Let's counteract that. We'll put the invites on donation gifts on May 1st. That will be 1 month after enrollment opens for How to Become the True Media 2023. So we'll open that on April 1st. We'll open this Two Masks, Same Face private invites on donation gifts on May 1st. Okay, I'll have all of those announcements on the front page of What on Earth is Happening and in the news section very, very soon. Don't Tread on Philly meets monthly at The Dive in South Philadelphia. This is the second Wednesday happy hour, second Wednesday of every month, always free to attend. We had an awesome night this past Wednesday. I mean, just great people, great conversations. I was actually feeling a bit under the weather. Like I had a little bit of a issue going on with my breathing, being exposed to some chemical scents and things like that. And I was feeling a little bit down last week. I'm getting over that. I still had a little bit of nasal congestion over the past couple days, but it's finally clearing up, feeling a lot better. And, even feeling not, myself feeling off this past Wednesday, I still had a great time at Don't Tread on Philly happy hour. So definitely, if you're in the Philadelphia area or region, this is a meetup you don't want to miss. Just the best people in the whole area come out to this, and they're freedom-loving people, and we're always discussing solutions and discussing how we can help each other, etc. So for more info, check out Don't Tread on Philly. We also have a Facebook group if you search Don't Tread on Philly, and that's where the event is always posted. Good news about the What on Earth is Happening IPFS Project. Many interested people. I've already sent 4 of the data drives out to people, and 1 node is officially online. It's done. It's complete. It's online. It's on the IPFS network. I'm very, very happy about that. I will be providing the content IDs and gateway links for the online nodes at the IPFS page on What on Earth is Happening, whatonearthishappening.com/IPFS. So we'll be keeping links there, and we will be continuing to take people's interest in the project there. If you're interested in hosting an IPFS node for What on Earth is Happening, an official node, you need to have 200 megabits or greater bandwidth in the upstream direction, the upload direction. So I will test and verify that for anybody who is interested before beginning them in this project. And we have several people who have begun the project now. One node is officially online. I'm going to be moving to start setting up the second node this week. I have to kind of work in a linear progression. It's just me doing this. If I had a bunch of tech people helping, maybe it could move faster, but I'm going to have to set the nodes up linearly, or I will lose my mind with all the work that I have to be doing. So the people in line that even have the data drive already, please be patient. I will be getting to you. I will be setting up calls with you to set up the computers. So just be patient. You got to realize I have a lot on my plate. I'm spinning plates all day long. And, it just is going to take a little bit of time, but I will get to you and we will complete that node for sure. We'll make it happen. So we've made one happen and it's online and it's performing well. So the What on Earth is Happening IPFS project is moving forward. The goal is we got to get 5 nodes up online by the end of this year, and we're going to make that goal. To call into the show today via Telegram, visit whatonearthishappening.com/call. You can also go to the show page and scan the QR code that's up there. So I'll be taking calls probably in the second hour of the show. ARC 2.0 is currently still available, ongoing offer, 2 terabyte hard drive. You send it to me, I fill it up with data and send it back to you. It consists of over 26,000 audio files, 9,500 digital books, 3,400 digital videos from my own personal archive of research and data amassed over the years. If you are interested in taking me up on this great informational offer, please visit whatonearthishappening.com/ARC. Please do keep in mind there are rigid shipping requirements to protect your property and to make the process smooth for me with all the other work that I have going on. So please be respectful in that regard and do follow the shipping directions precisely. It's not very hard. It's actually simple if you really think about it. It's just a lot of words to read to just get it right in your mind and then just follow the process. It's actually very simple. whatonearthishappening.com/ARC. You could fill out the form and get the PDF document with instructions. Gifts.whatonearthishappening is where you can get hard copies of items such as flash drives, DVDs, T-shirts. We just got a new order of coasters. They're beautiful. They're now re-available. They're available again on donation gifts. Great T-shirts up there. The One Great Work collection drive with all of my work. Again, the technology donation section and other ancillary items like stickers, keychains, etc. Please visit gifts.whatonearthishappening.com to support the effort here at What on Earth is Happening. Folks, if Gifts does not do well, What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network does not do well. Please, even if you're familiar with the material, pick up some items for family members, friends who are not familiar with the material. You could hand them a DVD, a flash drive. T-shirts are wonderful promotional items. But especially the DVDs and flash drives for family members and friends, very easy to just give that to them. They could, put it in their DVD player or plug it into the computer and watch any of my presentations. So great gifts items at gifts.whatonearthishappening.com. Please remember, everything here is rolled back into the operation and supports the efforts of What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network. Finally, to make a straight donation to support both What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network, visit whatonearthishappening.com/donate. Many ways to donate. Again, Amazon wishlist technology items. There are a couple of items up there. Thank you to people who purchased the other existing items. You really help out the operation, help keep it running. That's what it's all about, folks. This is about teamwork. If you haven't figured that out yet, this is about everybody making a contribution. And perhaps if people cannot do this type of work, then contribute monetarily, contribute via technology. Every little bit helps, and every little bit helps push the effort forward. You can donate via Cash App, GPay, Wise, 9 different cryptocurrencies. Just about every method is up here. That's all the announcements that I have. And again, we will continue to do those housekeeping announcements. They're very, very, very important. For people that say, oh, you take up too much time doing that, I'm letting people know what I'm doing and know what I require to do this work. Most people are not doing anything near what I'm doing. Most human beings. I've told people this a million times. People come over and look at what I do. They look at what my operation is. They look at what I do on a daily basis. And I have to take a shovel and pick their lower jaw up off the top of their shoes in most cases, because they realize they have zero of the skill sets, unfortunately. Just about zero. And even if people have some skill sets, they realize their skill sets are wholly inadequate compared to what I do every day. And I'm not saying that to say I'm better than anybody else. I'm just telling you that, these announcements are required. They're not ancillary. They're not, optional. It's like I have to remind people that I require resources. I'm not a superhuman. I eat, I go to the bathroom like anybody else. I require sleep like anybody else. I require resources like anybody else. And I'm doing more than most people, than just about everybody, with the exception of a few. And there is no problem or shame in asking for assistance, help, technology, monetary items, monetary donations. For anybody who's saying that, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Try doing anything remotely like what I'm doing, and you'll see what kind of resources are required. And again, I roll the resources back into the project. Okay? So, announcements are important and will be continued. So, I really am going to just take it back to the title card here briefly, and I'm going to talk about where I see human consciousness at in today's day and age. So let's just keep it here for now, and I'm just going to rant for a little while. You hear all the time in the truth movement and the freedom movement that there's an awakening going on. And I find it very difficult to believe that a lot of people believe this. And they actually think that some type of true elevation of human consciousness is taking place. And I'm not here to discourage everybody. I'm not here to tell everybody things that are just going to make them depressed. But I think what it is, let me try to present this in a balanced way and not get very upset about it, but just attempt to explain. Other people have a different set of standards. And that's the key to keep in mind. This is the problem. They have a different idea in their mind of what an awakening entails. They have a different definition of what awakening means. Awakening doesn't mean that you suddenly realize there's a corrupt control system in the world. That is a small sliver, a small little dash, a tiny little particle of awakening. That is the very beginning of the awakening process. That doesn't mean an awakening has happened or is actually happening. What are the defining hallmarks of an awakening in consciousness? And how can we gauge where consciousness is at in the aggregate of humanity? This is what people have to ask themselves. They need to honestly assess this. It's not about like you go to your meditation group and you see people that, oh, we want to improve ourselves. And then you say, oh, this is all that's around me and this is my social interaction for the month. Because it often is for most people. They're not social creatures. They don't go into the public. They certainly don't go into the deep aspects of the city anywhere. And they're sheltered. That's really what we have, is a lot of heavily sheltered people that don't know, they're not streetwise. Let's just put it that way. I made a whole presentation called StreetWise Spirituality. It's one of the presentations that I'm the most proud of, to be honest. I take pride in that presentation for a number of reasons. Number one, never before or since, to my knowledge, has someone truly created a framework for what it means to be really, truly awake in the modern day and what those characteristics entail. Certainly nobody talks about the occult when it comes to being awake. Certainly nobody talks about refusing to accept and believe in and support and condone the idea of authority. Hardly anybody relates that to awakening. You go and ask some New Age bullshitter what awakening is, and they'll tell you, oh, it's when you get to a certain point in meditating in a lotus position. They don't have any clue what real awakening is. And I believe that the freedom movement, the so-called truth movement and freedom movement, have an equally distorted view of what an awakening is, what its characteristics are, what it entails. And this is the problem. And this is what I want to talk about today. Because if we don't understand what a true awakening is, we can easily fall for a false awakening. You know, one of the biggest false flags in the world, one of the biggest psyops that I didn't even talk about in my psyops presentation, how about if I add an addendum to that? If maybe I do psyops extended at some point on this season of What on Earth is Happening. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll repeat, I'll do de facto Satanism extended and psyops extended this season. That'll round out the whole year probably. But let me tell you something. One of the biggest psyops that could possibly be conducted is a false awakening psyop, where people believe that they understand what really is going on and they do not. When people really believe they understand what needs to be done and they do not. See, this is what I talked about in Anarchapulco. And I've gotten a lot of mixed signals back from it. You know, some people loved what I had to say. Some people think I'm being too harsh on people. It doesn't make a difference to me because I'm speaking the truth. It doesn't matter to me whether anybody loved it or hated it. It's still true. See, that's the difference, is I'm saying what's true, not just what I think. I'm saying what is actually taking place in that Anarchapulco presentation. Which was Anarchy in the Occult, Part 3, the only solution to slavery. That's the presentation I'm referring to. You know, I'm telling the freedom community, you guys don't really truly understand the underlying causal factors, and you certainly don't understand what the actual solution is. And this is what I've been talking about forever on What on Earth is Happening, is what is the solution to the current human condition of slavery? What is required to end it? What is required to solve and reverse this condition that we are in? The duress that we are held under, the implied violence, the direct violence that is done. The mindset of the order follower that needs to be ultimately changed. It's about communication and publishing. It's about doing that in a wide-scale way on the internet. And this is the problem. People don't have the skill sets. They don't know how to do anything like this. They don't know how to do anything like anything that I do. That's the problem. That's the underlying problem, is you don't have the skill sets to reach out to other people. All you can do is open your mouth in person and you talk to a few people, and even if you convince them, then you get the notion in your mind, this is happening on a worldwide scale. No, it's not. It isn't. You know, this is the entirety of the problem, is people get tunnel vision. They get tunnel vision, and they see the world only through their perspective. And then it becomes almost solipsistic, like you think the whole world is as you're seeing it, instead of stepping back and studying it from an objective perspective. That can be done if you can get your ego and your flawed perspective out of the way. If you could set those aside and say, maybe I'm not correct about the state of the world's consciousness. Maybe I have to look at it at a much deeper level. Here's one of the things you could use. How many people are going to watch a game that nobody will remember 3 years from now, except maybe the team that wins, but the rest of the world won't, 2 years from now? Versus how many people are going to tune in and hear about human consciousness on What on Earth is Happening? I think that's a great gauge. That shows you how many people are interested in the truth and what's going on regarding the condition of human slavery and how to get out of it, versus how many people want to watch a fucking ball being kicked and thrown around. You know? But hey, Then people say, oh, you're being too harsh. You want to deny people their entertainment? No, I don't want them to make their lives about entertainment. That's the problem. And that's all most people have done. It's about my creature comfort. It's about what I want to do. It's about my entertainment. It's about my happiness. I said on a recent interview, it was with Logan Hart, which I'll be posting this week. I said, life is not about our happiness. Life is about our learning and our growth, growing in consciousness. What people believe life is just supposed to be about being as happy as you possibly can. That is ridiculous. Happiness is a result when you actually fulfill the requirements to make yourself and the world a better place. Then happiness results. What makes people think they should be happy in a state of slavery? I mean, imagine going over to a slave sitting in a cotton field in South Carolina in the mid-1800s and saying, well, why aren't you happy? Your life should be about happiness. I mean, this is how sick and twisted and demented and absolutely insane statements like that are. You're worried about happiness while you're enslaved? That slave would have every right to get up and knock you unconscious saying that to him. Just imagine that scenario. Imagine going to a slave on a plantation at a cotton plantation in Virginia or North Carolina or South Carolina or Georgia and saying, hey, slave, why aren't you happy? Don't you know life is supposed to be about your happiness? So what if you're enslaved? Why can't you trick your mind into making yourself feel happy even though you're being whipped half to death every day? Imagine doing that. And yeah, we may not be in that physical chained form of slavery yet, but we're rapidly moving toward it. We're in covert slavery. We're not in that form of overt slavery quite yet, but hey, don't rule it out, folks. We'll get there on this trajectory. So, going back to my main assertion here, if you look at where people's perception is at, they will have a different standard in their own mental definitions for what awakening entails and what its characteristics are. Those are not my standards. I'm not looking at it from their standards. I'm not looking at it from their perspective. That's a skewed and distorted perspective. I have very long ago stepped way back from it, and I'm seeing it far from the outside. You see things from a different perspective when you pull all the way back and you could see the whole thing. This is why people who believe in flat earth are looking at things from up so close that they can't understand that what looks like this from this close and you back it up, there's curvature to it. They can't grasp that concept because they have no perception of scale. Scale is where they fail. It rhymes. You could repeat it like a mantra. The flat earthers' problem, scale, is where they fail. Okay? They don't understand scale, and they don't really understand perspective. And I don't want to make this about that. Certainly, this is not going to be a show on that. But it's about perspective. And it's about never stepping back from seeing things up like this close. And that's what the freedom movement does. They're in their very limited social interactions on a monthly basis. I'll say a semi-yearly basis, because let's face it, this community and this whole group of people are not super social animals. Some of them can be. Not going to make a blanket statement, but not many of them are. And when they do go out, it's in a very limited capacity. And they tend to think of the people that they hang out with as being some form of a representation of the whole of humanity. And nothing could be further from the truth. This is such a tiny, almost insignificant minority that it's negligible. It barely registers compared to the whole overwhelming ignorant and apathetic masses of people that inhabit this planet. We have to start having a higher standard for what an awakening in consciousness entails. The higher standard has to be if you really go out in public, not with freedom movement folks, you just go out in your average setting in public and you just did some type of a social experiment, or you just gauged, you have some conversations to gauge it. How many people concern themselves with true freedom? How many people know there's a total enslavement system in place? Slavery. Who would word it like that? If you asked people what is the human condition and they don't tell you slavery, they're not awake, they're not conscious. I don't care what else they know. They're not conscious of the situation they're in. If you go up to a slave on a plantation in the mid-1800s and you say, "What is your condition, sir?" or "Ma'am, what is your current condition?" and they don't tell you I'm enslaved here, then they don't know what's going on. If they tell you, "Well, it's just a beautiful day and I'm sitting here enjoying the sun while I'm working out in this field, and then I'm going to go have some food later that the master of the plantation provided for me, and that's my current condition," you're talking to a completely unconscious being. So think about it in today's terms. It's just not overt ball, chain, and shackle slavery variant. Now what it is covert slavery of the mind and getting people to participate in their own enslavement and condone it and say that it's moral. That's the standard that I'm talking about. If you went out and gauged how many people know that they're enslaved and know that everybody's enslaved and know that we need to do our best to communicate morality, that's totally and intimately tied together with moral behavior versus immoral behavior. That as the aggregate of human beings behave in a moral capacity, truly moral capacity, not a fake religious or fake New Age morality, but a truly moral capacity according to objective morality and natural law, then humanity becomes free in the aggregate. As morality, as true morality amongst a population of beings increases, their true freedom increases. As morality declines and wanes and the people perform immoral behaviors in the aggregate and condone immoral behaviors in the aggregate, freedom is destroyed and slavery is the condition. That's the law of freedom in natural law. And how many people would you say know that? If you said to people out in the wider world, "Can you explain to me how freedom actually works? How is a society either free or enslaved? What is the dynamic that governs that? Does a natural dynamic govern that? And if so, please explain how it works." How many people do you think could possibly get that answer correct? I'm telling you, 99.999% of people would have no clue. And those are the standards that I'm talking about regarding awakening. Almost every week, folks, packages are arriving while I'm on the air. And I'm just going to let them deal with that. I'm not going to go and get it. But, reiterating a very important point, if you just ask people, what is the current human condition? How many of them are going to tell you accurately that it's slavery? Hardly any. If you ask them, what is the dynamic that is directly related with human freedom? Are they going to say true objective morality under natural law? No, they're not. If you ask people, is government slavery? How many people are going to truly understand that it is? How many people are going to truly understand the inherent coercion, duress, and violence that is inherent to all forms of government? Look, I'm telling you, I've dissociated with people at this point that had the time to understand this, still want to insist that government is moral in any capacity. And I'm not associating with people like that anymore. I may speak with them cordially, but I'm not really going to have any actual real dynamic interaction with them from this point forward. I apologize for the background noise, folks. The delivery person is just ringing my doorbell. So the standards that we have to have are those. Not, do people know that the Federal Reserve isn't federal and is a Ponzi scheme and it's all run offshore? Do they even know that the Democrats aren't their friends? I mean, it's just such ridiculousness. that we even need to speak about any of these 3D nonsensical, like so clearly retardedly unrealistic things, out of touch with reality that people still believe in. And even that the freedom movement is using as a gauge. These are not the things that need to be used as a gauge for an awakening in human consciousness. What needs to be used as a gauge is, do you understand that all forms of order following are inherently immoral? All and every. Do you understand that all forms of government are inherently immoral? All and every. Do you understand that government is slavery? Do you understand that the human condition is slavery? Do you understand that only morality and teaching it can get us out of that condition? These are the standards for a real awakening. Do you understand that a technocratic occultocracy rules the world? Not a matriarchy, not a patriarchy, not a government structure. A technocratic elite of occultists, Satanists, dark Luciferians. These are who are really running the show from behind the scenes. People whose hearts are so black, if you even got a glimpse into their psychopathic nature, you'd faint, you'd collapse, you'd pass out. Piss would be running down your leg, let alone be around them for any length of time. Then something else would be running down your leg, and it wouldn't be piss, And that's the problem, is people aren't streetwise. They're very naive. We're still in a position, in the whole global civilization of humanity is so unimaginably naive as a people. I said, this is one word that'll trigger me. You don't call me naive. I'm still triggered by that word. You don't know what I know. That's the problem, is that people don't know what I know and they're super fucking naive. Nothing could be further from the truth regarding me. I'm fully fucking streetwise to this shit. Let's just say it out in the open just like that. I'm fully streetwise to it. I know exactly how it's run. And it's one big mafia. You want to gauge the structure? Go into the real high-end aspects of the cartels in Mexico and the mafia and how they run shit. Go deep into the Jewish mafia. Go deep into the Italian mafia. Go deep into the Russian mob. You'll see how mafias are run. And let me tell you something, they're all connected through the occult networks. You think that they're operating independently at the highest levels? You think the capos of all of those mafias aren't taking marching orders from occultists? You're out of your goddamn mind and you're a naive little child. That's the problem, is people don't understand the structure of our world. Not really. Not really. You don't think all the institutions that people put their faith in, hospitals, education institutions, pharmaceutical industries, entertainment, even sports, they're all taking their marching orders from these technocratic occultists. All of them. Not some of them, all of them. And then the big one, the one that people are the most fucking naive about, and that's the lowest order of intelligence that's operating, are religionists. And, get as offended as you want, take insult however you want to take it, but people who believe, oh yeah, my religion's somehow untouched by this, just naive children. Absolutely naive toddlers. They're not even toddlers, they're infants. Calling them toddlers is giving them too much credit for growth, sadly. And that's the problem, is you just have non-streetwise people that haven't been around the block, that haven't gotten a glimpse behind the fucking curtain, that don't really know how it works. And they're so fucking naive. And this is what's out there. Elon Musk just made a post, regardless of what you think about him or not. Some of the things he says, he's giving people an inkling into human consciousness. Whether he's awake truly or not, that's not the point. Him even just saying a few things on Twitter, the way he says them, is at least showing people where people are at. He says almost all of his so-called intelligent friends, he cannot believe they all believe that the mainstream media is telling the truth, is actually trying to portray accurate information, and they don't understand that they're willfully and deliberately lying to people. He didn't go so far as to word it completely like that, but he said, I can't believe how many intelligent people I know that still actually believe the mainstream media. Something to that effect, paraphrasing. And he's right, because I told you, only a couple of years back, we did an experiment right before the pandemic. We did an experiment about how many people in just one region of Philadelphia, one small, tiny region in the Northern Liberties area of Philadelphia, how many people believe that the mainstream media is telling them the truth and doing their best to tell them the truth. And folks, our results were 100% of human beings that we polled, meaning zero gave a different answer. 100%. I can't remember the exact number. It was like something like in one place 35, in one place 28, in one, it was done in a couple of places. 100% said the mainstream media is attempting their best to report the truth. Imagine what a stupid, naive fucking child, a willfully stupid, a willful ignoramus. A willful ignoramus a person has to be. What a naive ignoramus a person has to be to believe that nonsensical bullshit. That's where human consciousness still is. Now, have some people come out of that illusion? Yes, some have. But it's a tiny, 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 almost imperceptible percentage. And that's the problem. It's not good enough. Look, folks, if you are, let's say, raising a child, and the child wants to do something at a high level, they want to compete in something. Let's say they eventually want to compete in bowling. And I could have competed in bowling. I have some natural aptitude to it, not bragging, just saying what's true. I took a natural aptitude to it. I used to bowl with my stepfather, who has passed away, and he would take me out bowling at an old place in South Philly called Oregon Lanes, and we'd bowl there all the time. So I started getting a knack for it. When I, was in my early 20s, I'd say, I started bowling with my good friend John. We would also go to Oregon Lanes and some other places in South Jersey, and that's when I started getting really good. And, we could, at some point, consistently roll 200 games. So, and, people would say, oh, join a league. I'm like, I'm not into group dynamics like that. I never really have been until I got involved in the occult. Certainly then, I really didn't want to be involved in group dynamics. I still don't. And, I got pretty good at it. And, then I stopped for a long time, obviously involved in this work, and I started doing it again not too long ago, maybe around 2015. And I would only go like once a week, maybe once every other week. When I got really busy, I'd be able to go like once a month. And even then, I was getting better and better as I bowled more, and I was throwing games in the 260 region. Never threw a perfect game yet, but 260 plus. That's championship quality if you can do that consistently. Certainly is. Okay? So, again, this is just a path my life's not going to go down. Could have at one point. I haven't thrown a game. I haven't rolled one game since before the pandemic. I think I won, and I threw an exact 200, which was a miracle that I even did that well for not, rolling a game in years, but it would take a good amount of practice for me to get back to throwing 250, 260 plus games. But I could do it if I wanted to. I could dedicate the time to do that if I put all of this on the back burner and go and live that life. I'm not going to do that. But if I really did want to do it, I could. The point I'm making is this is about how we have to gauge where the level of our work is at. right? So let's say I had a child that I wanted to, that said that they wanted to become a professional bowler. So they're in high school and they start going on the bowling team. And I'm seeing no improvement. I'm trying to coach. The aptitude isn't moving forward. Okay? And they're not getting better. They're rolling 120, 130, 140 games, and they stay there. And that's about it. And years pass. And they keep saying, I want to become a professional bowler at one point. And they're still on the bowling team rolling 140, 150 games. That's never going to cut it in the professional circuit. So at some point, you would have to say, your effort isn't good enough. You have to do one of two things. You have to really hone your effort. And you have to make your effort a new level. You have to jump to a new level of effort. Whatever you're doing right now is not working. And if I tell you it is, and I tell you you're going to be good enough, I'm lying to you, and I'm setting you up for disappointment and failure. And there's nothing wrong with failing at something. But if you're going to set a bar and try to live up to that standard, then what you better do is you better fulfill the requirements to get to that standard. And the problem is we're nowhere near that. We're down here saying we want to roll a 265 game, and we're rolling 120. That's right now where humanity is at. That's where we're at. Okay? And we're saying 120 is going to be good enough, isn't it? 120 is going to be good enough, isn't it? And I'm sitting here saying, child, your effort isn't good enough. It's piss poor. It's not good enough for the bar you've set up here to end slavery. You're still going to be enslaved. You're not going to get out of the slavery that you're in at this level of effort. Sorry, but I cannot lie to you. I'm bound to telling the truth regarding where we're at and the nature of this whole work, whatever you want to call it. I was going to say agenda. It's not an agenda. This whole endeavor is the word I was searching for. I can't lie to you about the nature of this endeavor, this path, this work, this project. I have to gauge it and assess it accurately. And the level of work that we are doing, and not all of us, not a blanket statement, but the vast majority, there are people who are doing really, really, really awesome work. I'm telling you, the content creators on One Great Work Network are cut above, or I would not have invited them to the network. There's other people's work that I recognize that I'd like to bring onto the network. I'm going to see if I could start expanding that later this year. I'm probably going to hold off on that until after I move. But I want to bring a few more content creators on the network this year, certainly. I'd like to bump it up to 80 at least. But my point is, the vast, overwhelming majority of human beings, they're down here in their efforts. And they've set the bar up here, and they don't know how to get there. They don't even understand the requirements. And then they're walking around like little toddlers saying, I'm going to be a championship bowler one day. We're going to be free. We're winning. We're not going to be free. We're not winning. We are losing horrifically. Horrifically losing. The dark Luciferians at the highest pecking order of the entire satanic structure of our world are not panicking. They're not panicking. They see the effort that we're making and they're laughing at us. They're laughing at us. Every day they're laughing at us. Believe me, I know. I know is all I'm going to say. They're laughing at us. And they're not projecting that and pretending that, oh, we're not worried. And they really are. Behind the scenes, they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? They're not. They're not worried about it. Because they know what the characteristics of a real awakening look like. And we're nowhere near it, boys and girls. We're nowhere near it, boys and girls. And I say we're nowhere near it, ladies and gentlemen, if we really were acting like ladies and like gentlemen. But we're acting like boys and girls. And that's the problem. We don't want to take the responsibility to do what's required. We want to hide anonymously. We want to stay where it's safe. We don't want to come out and use our voice widely and freely to communicate and to publish and to formalize and immortalize. No, we don't want to do that. We want to be the anonymous coward posting memes on Facebook. We want to be the anonymous coward, posting under some pseudonym, somebody else's video or something on YouTube. This will not cut it. This will not get the job done. You're rolling a 110. You're not in championship contention. You're not serious. You're a hobbyist. You're not even a hobbyist. You're somebody who never picked up a bowling ball before, picking it up, realizing I can barely fucking throw this because I don't have any strength in my arm, and you throw gutter balls all day. You're rolling a 40. Okay? That's the problem. Is the effort is paltry. It's paltry, and it's paltry because people have not developed skill sets to make that effort. They've sat still. 10, 15, 20 years ago, they told themselves, I'm just no good at computers. No, that's not your nature. That was your condition. And if you let it fester and you believe that bullshit and you just kept letting it be your condition, then that's going to be the default condition that you get. What you have to say is my current condition is I don't understand how to publish and communicate in the modern world using computers. That's my current condition. That's not a permanently locked in condition that is capable of being changed by an act of my will, by an act of my effort. And if I put the work and effort into it, just like a high school student who's rolling a 130 game in bowling can improve his score to a 220 in probably a year or two's time if they hit those lanes every single day for hours a day. You don't make excuses, I'm tired after class. You go to the lanes after class and you roll for 3 hours and you put whatever money you have to into it. The end. And that's it. You do what's required. Well, people could have been building their skill sets all of this time. Over a decade I've been doing this. 13 years I've been doing this show, telling people you could build your skill sets. You can learn this. You can learn how to do this. You have to be able to do this. You have to put forward your voice. And what have they done? They have sat still, not developed those skill sets, and are still in the same positions that they were, in the same conditions that they were when I started saying that back in 2010. It's unacceptable. And again, I'm going to do my best. My resolution has been, I'm going to be harsh, but I'm not going to rage. I'm going to say it in a harsh, unforgiving way that it's matter of fact. I'm going to try not to scream, yell, and get enraged. But I'm going to say it tough. And this is what needs to be improved upon. People have to understand the only way that we reach people with the message of truth and freedom and natural law and objective morality. We can never reach enough people by word of mouth. We can never reach enough people by just telling family and friends. It has to be formalized. It has to be put out there. Whether you write a book, whether you write a pamphlet, a newsletter, whether you make a blog on a website, whether you make a podcast, an audio podcast, a video podcast, it doesn't matter. Make a documentary film, make a short film. It doesn't make a difference what you do. Our charge as human beings by creation at this time period to free ourselves from tyranny and slavery is to create. Our charge. We are charged by creation to create, to be an aspect of creation, and to create something that did not exist previously. Whether we're saying the same things that have been said, that's not the point. Your work that you will put out does not exist right now. You will make something that does not yet exist and then put it out into creation. Don't you understand the power in that? Don't you understand that that's as close as you get to the Creator doing that? That task is accomplishing the will of the Creator. That's closeness with creation. That is aligning your own lowercase w will to the capital W will of all creation. That is agape love. To help human beings in a wider sense understand the truth, understand what morality really is. How about this for gauging human consciousness and where it's at? How many people still condone the immorality of government and believe that it should continue to exist, and then simultaneously don't think that that makes them a bad person? At this point, if anybody thinks that, I don't want to be around you. I don't want to be around you. I think you're a bad person if you believe that. That's it. And I'm right. That's not my opinion. I'm correct that people who believe in and condone government are bad people. That makes you a bad person. And I'm just going to say it like that. People have to hear it. That doesn't mean you're permanently a bad person. Just like the student on the high school bowling team can improve his game from a 120 to a 220, a person who once believed in government can realize that that's a wrong thought. That is a wrong belief system. You are factually wrong that it is moral in any capacity, and you are morally wrong to condone it. And that's changeable. You can stop condoning that dynamic. You can say, you can reverse your position, realize why it is immoral, and say, wow, I was wrong, I condoned this, and I was wrong for having condoned it. And you can become a good person. That's not the only factor that will make you into a good person, but it's one of them. You certainly cannot be a good person while believing that government is legitimate and moral. That's impossible. There is no such thing as a good person that accepts and believes that government should exist. If you think government should exist, you are, by definition, a bad person. Now, gauge all of human consciousness based on that and tell me if there's a fucking awakening. Please. It's a fucking joke is what it is. The overwhelming majority of this species of mud creatures called human beings believes that government is perfectly moral. And then in the next breath, they're going to tell you they're a good person while simultaneously believing in government in that dynamic and then condoning what it does to other people that is completely violent. Imagine that. And then people are going to tell me they're moral beings. Get the fuck out of my face. Therein lies the problem, folks, is everybody has a wildly skewed definition of what they think an awakening entails and what it means. And I'm here to tell you the real answer, the real truth of what awakening means. It means you understand what's really going on. You know the human condition is slavery. You know occultism. You understand the body of work that comprises occultism because you know occultism is what's putting people into slavery, and you also know it's the same information that can help get us out. You understand religion is what's holding us back. It's giving us a false notion of morality. You understand that freedom is driven by morality. And only when beings act and operate in a truly moral capacity, not in a fake moral capacity that religion and New Age movement gives us, but in a true moral capacity that natural law imparts unto us, can we ever be free. You understand that the solution, and the only solution, is to speak that out with your voice widely and freely into the world in a formalized and immortalized way. And you understand anybody that still condones government cannot be a good person. These are just some of the characteristics of real awakening. Gauge the awakening on those terms and then see how awake the world is. Yeah, it's a fucking joke. Is what it is. And I'm not saying that again to berate and to discourage. Look at it like a father looking sadly and unfortunately, but honestly, at the child who's on the bowling team, and the father has to say to them, I don't want to lie to you, son. You're not going to make professional bowling. You're not going to cut it. You're not going to go on the Pro Bowlers Tour. It ain't going to happen. Okay? You might as well get over it now. Could you do it? You're going to have to work your ass off. You're going to have to hit those lanes every single day. Picture training to be an MMA fighter and realizing you're getting tapped out every sparring match. You're getting knocked down every time you spar. You're not cutting it. You're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not fast enough. You don't understand striking well enough. You don't understand submissions well enough. You don't understand escapes well enough. You're not going to cut it in the MMA circuit. You're going to get hurt. And that's where we're at in the freedom movement. We're children saying, I want to go join the UFC. And you're going to get your jaw jacked into a million pieces and you're going to be unconscious on the ground getting taken to the fucking hospital. You're not going to cut it. You know? And somebody who's being honest with you and cares about you is saying your effort's not good enough, you're going to get out there and get hurt. You are actively getting hurt. Forget getting hurt in the future. We're being hurt because our efforts aren't good enough. We have to step our effort up so greatly that by the standards that they're at, you're bowling 3. You're throwing every gutter ball, and your last one almost hit the gutter. It bounced out and knocked 3 pins over, and it's a 3. If I have to be honest, that's really where humanity is at in the aggregate. It's a joke. It's not even like, oh, with some improvement we could get you there. Right now, it's a joke. Because people and their standards are set so fucking low. They think if we move from here, look, here's what they think. They think, all right, okay, oh, we're at a 3. Oh my God, we're bowling a 20 now. That's heavy progress. No, that's still jackass level. You're not doing much better. You're doing better from a 2-year-old's perspective. A 2-year-old could take the ball and throw it under its legs like this and bowl higher than a 3 and maybe even higher than a 20 in 10 frames. The point is, moving from a 3 to a 20 is not progress. Moving from that 120 to a 220 is progress. Then we're saying, well, we can get you up to a championship contention because you hit the lanes every day, solidly bowling a 220. You could hit a 265 in a few years if you really, really, really practice and you really hone your craft. And that's the whole point. We have to be people who are continuously improving, not sitting back and saying, you know what, Mark Passio talked about that. He's got that. That's all done. No, it's not done. And the other thing is, there's nothing new. I keep hearing this thing, when are you going to talk about new stuff? When are you going to talk about new stuff, Mark? That's what you sound like, jackass. You sound like you're not riding the regular bus to school. Let's just say it like that, okay? That's what you sound like, sadly. And not making fun of people with challenges like that. That's a terrible thing. But I am saying the people who say that, you might think that they are those people. You might actually believe it. Because if you think this is about being entertained and hearing something new that you never heard before, you don't know what the fuck's going on, boy. You don't know what the fuck's going on, little girl. That's the problem. That's the underlying problem. This isn't about being entertained and hearing something new. This is about getting on the battlefield and going to war with the information that has to be conveyed to human beings. And we're getting our ass kicked in that war. Kicked. Handed to us on a platter with a side of mustard. That's what's happening. They have people so completely, especially in cities, that the overwhelming majority of these lowlifes actually believe these lowbrow. To call them Australopithecines is an insult to the Australopithecines. Okay, you got to call them creatures that just rolled out of the mud of the ocean. You know, because to even say that they're in the primate order is an insult to lower level primates, sadly. That actually believe the media is telling them the truth. Yeah. It's not even a 2-year-old toddler hopping around, not able to walk yet. You know? You're just, people like that are just lowbrow, low rent losers. And guess what? That's only your condition still. You can change it if you decide to become an intelligent person. You can work at becoming intelligent. Somebody who's that dumb does not have to remain that dumb. This is what people believe. They believe that that's their nature. No, it is not. It is the current condition that they have been worked into. And that is changeable. See, this is what you have to hear in all of this. Nothing is permanent except natural law. Nothing is permanent except the laws that the Creator laid into the foundations and the fabric of reality. Those things are permanent. The condition of a being is not permanent. It can be reworked. It can be improved. It can be degraded from a good condition into a degraded condition. It goes both ways. We have to understand we can work to improve our condition if we work at it. But our effort has been horrid. It's been horrible. That's the current condition of humanity. That's where human consciousness is really at. Can we change it? Yes, we can. What is required? Absolutely an incredible amount more effort. Willpower, work, persistence, attention, time, putting the time in, working to improve one's skill sets, to develop skill sets. See, that's part of the problem is we're sitting still. It's okay not to have skill sets at first, and then you slowly build them. Even if we're moving on this trajectory, we're okay. But here's the trajectory we're actually moving on. No movement. No linear progression upward. We need progression upward, not staying still year over year over year over year over year. Why would people believe we should receive any positive consequence when our skill sets and effort are staying still and not progressing year over year? If you look at yourself today and you are saying to yourself, I still know the same level of skills regarding publishing and communication as I did in the modern era, meaning modern publishing and modern communication, I am still at the same skill level I was 10 years ago. If you look at yourself in the mirror, this is the gauging of where consciousness is at. And again, I'm not saying it's all about technology. If you don't know natural law and you haven't made progress in understanding that, if you haven't made progress in understanding objective morality, if you haven't made progress in the last 10 years in understanding that all government is inherently immoral, start there. Let's make no mistake about it. Get the information into yourself first. But after you do understand those things, you have a responsibility to speak out and teach others. So then ask yourself, how much have you done that? How many people have you influenced from afar? Not just right in your own local area. How many people have you got to quit their jobs in government capacities or in order following capacities? There's another dynamic to gauge the whole world on, to gauge all of human consciousness on. How many people in government, in military, in the police force, in even ancillary capacities of government have walked away? Truly. Really completely seen it for the immoral thing that it is and say, I quit. I'm quitting this cult. There's another project that's been sitting on the back burner, Quit Your Cult. Folks, you'll notice I do sometimes have to leave projects on the back burner, but I eventually do get to them. I will make a Quit Your Cult website. By hook or crook, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of I don't have the amount of help that I require to move these projects forward in any timely fashion. So it's going to languish. It's going to sit on the back burner. I'll eventually get to it when I have the time, but that could be a long time from now. If a lot of help comes forward, maybe I could do things in a shorter order of time. So gauge the dynamic on that. How many people are actively involved in truly helping, even in an ancillary capacity? How many people have their own operations? How many people are quitting their jobs in government and doing something different, doing something that is right livelihood instead of wrong livelihood? Gauge things like that, and then you'll see where human consciousness is really at. Not from a distorted and skewed perspective of, well, the one day of the month that I go out and socialize because I'm basically a sheltered hermit otherwise, I see people who think like me, and so then I think, oh, the world must really being moved in, the world must really be progressing. Yeah, this is how most people gauge things, sadly. They're not looking at it from a realistic and pragmatic perspective. They're looking at it from a distorted and skewed perspective that they want to see it from. Again, one of the best quotes ever that I've ever come across in any literature was in the Travis Walton's book. I can't remember what it was called, but he wrote, and I'll paraphrase, the biggest problem, I've come to realize over the years that the biggest problem anywhere in the world is that people tend to see everything through a perspective of what they want and do not want to be true. Through a filter, he said, through a filter or a lens, a filter of what they want and don't want to be true. They don't see it as it really is. They only see it, do I want that to be true? That the human condition is slavery? Do I want it to be true that government is slavery and immoral? See, that's how they're thinking about it. Do I want that to be true or not? That's like saying, do you want it to be true that water wets things? Do you want it to be true that fire is hot? Do you want it to be true that the sun refracts blue hue in the sky on a cloudless day? That these things are not up to you whether they are true or not. They are as they are. You cannot change the nature of a thing, but you can change its condition. And you have to accept its condition before you can change it. It doesn't mean you accept that it's moral. You have to accept that it is the condition. You can't lie to yourself about it not being the current condition. And this is what people do. They lie to themselves that the current condition is not slavery. They'll say, no, it can't be that. I don't want that to be true. There's that completely staggered and erroneous filter that they want to put in place between them and the truth and say, do I want that to be true or not? You can't gauge anything on that. Do you want it to be true that most people are completely unconscious beings? That's not up to you to decide. That's up to you to learn where the dynamic is at. You're not the decider of that dynamic. There's a truth regarding it. You have to see it from a lens clearly instead of from a lens clouded darkly. You have to clear the filter and say, it's not about what I want to be true, it's about what is. And then we can start from where we're at with what is, and we can improve the condition from there. But if you don't know what the condition is, good luck improving it, because you're lying to yourself. And that's step one of occult initiation, is stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself what you want to hear and stop telling other people what they want to hear. Say what the truth is. That's all I've ever endeavored to do here on What on Earth is Happening. And that truth is dark as fuck. Okay? Not gonna lie, it's heavy and it's dark, but it's also the truth. And until that is embraced and we understand where we have to start from, no progress is going to be made. We're going to stay stagnant. We're going to be bowling the 20. We're going to stay bowling the 20 year over year over year over year, and we ain't going to make it into the 260s to truly compete. You see? That's the problem. That's where human consciousness, unfortunately, is still at. Is still trapped. And the only ones that can get us out of that mess is ourselves by doing internal shadow work. Sit yourself down in front of a mirror and say what's true. Don't say what you want to hear. Ask a question and then answer it truthfully. And answer it truthfully even if the answer horrifies you. That's shadow work. That's what shadow work is. You stop lying to yourself. You say what's true. You say it even if it's the most horrifying thing you've ever heard. And you say it to yourself and you say, that's the fucking truth and I have to start from there. The end. Toughen up, boys and girls. If you ever want to become men and women, boys and girls got to toughen the fuck up and become streetwise. And they got to tell themselves the truth, even if that truth is the most horrific thing you've ever heard. If we do that, we can change the state of human consciousness. If we don't do that, really, the future is doomed for humanity. Who knows when that will be? Nobody can truly know that time, but that's the trajectory we'll be certainly headed down. So I'll leave my rant there. That leaves a half an hour to take your calls. We'll take calls until the end of the show. You could join us on the Telegram platform, whatonearthishappening.com/call. Let me get set up for this briefly, and we'll go from there. Sorry, folks. There we go. All right, let me roll over to my Telegram on my laptop and get set up with the headphones. Excellent. We have plenty of callers in the queue. Let's hear from Gilbert. Gilbert, you are live on What on Earth is Happening. Welcome to the show. Check 1, 2. Unmute yourself, please. There you go. Gilbert, give it another shot. Your audio is coming in very distorted. Now, you have mic problems, Gilbert. I'm going to have to put you on hold. We'll come back to you. Here we go. Let's hear from my former guest, Catherine Waters, from the One Great Work Network. Welcome, Catherine. Go ahead and unmute yourself on your end. Your mic is still muted on your end, Kat. All right, people are having some tech difficulty today. That's okay. I know what that is like. Hey, just interviewed me last night. Logan Hart from One Great Work Network. Go right ahead.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Appreciate the content. Definitely really been enjoying listening to this one, and I think you're right on point with where things are at. I see it as what I call copium. People are either using the incorrect criteria to gauge, like you said, they're going by, people are starting to do shadow work, or they're starting to take ayahuasca, this very kind of new agey perspective on it, or they're just simply coping.
Right.
They're just kind of telling themselves because it makes them feel better.
Exactly. They're trying to get by. They're trying to basically tell themselves things that will provide comfort. Truth does not necessarily provide comfort. Truth just lets you orient yourself in a way that is accurate to navigate the world. If you don't do that, think about how much more discomfort you're going to cause yourself down the line. You're going to cause so much discomfort that you're not even going to be able to accurately navigate the world, because you're going to have distorted information. You can't start from that perspective. You have to start from a perspective of, you got to say what's true, even if it's horrible, even if it's something that you don't want to confront initially. You have to say what's true first.
That's right. A quote of mine is that the only thing more painful than awakening is staying asleep.
That's right.
As you said, Mark, the child mentality is not wanting to accept that and trying to take shortcuts or find ways to take, the difficulty out of life. But it's, according to natural law, it is the only way, out is through. And you have to first just fully embrace that process and understand that not only is it necessary, but trying to avoid it, you're actually bringing more of the suffering that you think you're trying to bypass.
Exactly. How many people are unconsciously creating more self-inflicted suffering by what they believe and then what they condone and even perform with their own behavior and don't even know it because they're not conscious of the truth, or they're blocking the truth out from their consciousness. Logan, phenomenal points, man. That's so important to understand that. And we're going to have a conversation right here on What on Earth is Happening in a few weeks. So people look for that.
Very excited for that.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that very dynamic of how people want to put filters in the way of the truth, don't want to accept the truth. The topic will be truth, what it really means, how people are either accepting it or rejecting it. But we'll make that a main topic of the show. Logan, really looking forward to that full-length discussion.
Yeah. And thanks for taking my question.
You got it. Thank you. Logan Hart of One Great Work Network. Let's see if Kat solved her mic issue. Kat, let's try it again. So hit the the large microphone icon at the bottom of the call window of Telegram. That's how you unmute. It should say you're muted. And there you go.
Finally.
You got it.
Oh my God. I'm so glad I got through because, I'm like dying to speak. So thank you so much. I love hearing someone, you're saying my words, Mark, and I really, really appreciate it. I use the term fitness. I've been, seeing exactly what you're saying for so many decades. And I'm just going to say, it comes from the fact that we live in a debt system. It's all about perpetuating debt and going deeper and deeper into debt, which means I don't mean financial debt. I mean health debt, mental debt. It's like people are just so disoriented. They're completely going in the wrong direction. They have no idea which direction to move in. And from what I witnessed, it's because of the debt-based family system and just literally having adult children with emotional baggage for parents who are basically, you have to coddle them, you're here to prop them up.
Right.
And to coddle them, that's basically, at your own expense. And so, this whole dynamic going on that's just completely inverted from the way, a healthy system is supposed to function. And, to me, that was just so much a part of it.
Especially our generation's parents. You think about it, we're Gen X, and our parents were the baby boomer generation that were raised by the World War II generation and sat down in front of the convenience family and all the convenience dynamic that came out of the 1950s and into the 60s. And they were sat down in front of the boob tube for the bulk of their childhood, And yeah, we did our own share of watching TV when we were young, but at least we had some inspirational content, and superheroes were a big part of it, etc. They were given all of the propaganda. They were sat down and right in front of the TV and just bombarded with heavy propaganda, as is the Gen X generation and the Gen Z generation now. There's heavy propaganda. I walk into people's homes playing shows on television, and I cannot believe what I hear. I cannot believe what I hear in the content, what in the commercials. And we have to realize our parents' generation, they were just absolutely taken by all of that. They were just consumed by it, with very few exceptions in the baby boomer generation. I think Gen X is the hope for the world, personally. I think we're probably the most balanced generation alive. I think we're probably the most informed generation alive. And guess what? That's not saying too much, because as parents, we gave birth to the millennials because our parents were, in general, such a bad example to follow that most people followed in bad footsteps and then did a very, very poor job, if they did have children, in raising their children properly. So while Gen X themselves, those who are awake and saw all of this dysfunction and distortion of our reality, are awake and reaching out to others, they're a hope if there is a hope, it's in that generation. But think about the horror that we raised in the millennial generation. My God, what a horrible job Gen X did as parents.
Like just passing the debt down, like that's all I've seen for my lifetime is, passing the pollution, passing the illness, passing the guilt, the shame, breaking, your spirit, and, using children to just inherit the bill rather than to be protected and defended so that they could, be and grow to, the healthy people they were supposed to.
Exactly.
It's I could go
Well, Kat,
on.
you're doing your job to awaken and enlighten the masses of people with your content on One Great Work Network, and I want to thank you. You're doing a great job. Awesome interview the other day where we had tech difficulties, but you replayed it yesterday. I'm glad you were able to get that out on the air. The tech difficulties with One Great Work Network are now fully worked out. There were some road bumps, and I had to experiment a little bit with the new server, but we are fully running operationally now, and I'm very happy with the performance of the machine. So, Kat, thank you for all of your great work on One Great Work Network, and thank you for your insights here today.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it.
You got it. All right, let's see. Let's hear from Alex. Alex, go right ahead. You're on What on Earth is Happening today. Go ahead and unmute yourself with the large blue microphone icon at the bottom of the call window. There you go.
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, happy to hear from you. Great show as always.
Thank you.
I just want to ask you, what do you think so many so-called freedom activists think that they figured it out because they just got out of one religion? And they think that because they figured out that, because I got out of the Christian religion or the government religion, that I have it all figured out. Because I see, from my experience, I've been an activist for a long time, vegan activist, because I'm Korean when it comes to freedom. Mm-hmm. And just that topic alone, like, it pisses off so many people when you start talking about, you shouldn't hurt sentient beings. If you want freedom for yourself, how about you give it to others? Right. Like, you don't need to fucking dominate. And they have the audacity to call it the circle of life. Right. It's a pyramid of death and domination.
Well, absolutely. So and it's a very, very polarizing concept. Yeah, I'll speak to this. A great question, Alex. Thank you for it. Again, this is something that I have only basically done a show on twice, revisited it one time. And it's extremely polarizing. And people will insist that they have the truth regarding it when they will not and absolutely, forcibly, deliberately, and willfully will not look at it from a moral perspective and think that the moral perspective is not the true perspective to look at it from. And there's nothing that can be said to people like that. It's the same people. It's the same kind of people that are going to insist till the day that they die that consensual acts of sexuality between either two men or two women are immoral just because their church says that it's immoral, just because their religion says that it is. They don't understand what immorality is, right? So they're the same kind of religious people as the types of religious people who say, well, if there's homosexual acts involved in anything, that's immoral. And I don't have to agree with homosexuality. I don't have to like it or like be part of it. I'm heterosexual. That's not my sexual preference. So what? Who cares? That's their business. My sexuality is my business. It's like, what do I need to even worry about what they're doing as long as it's consensual? The only thing I'm going to worry about is it consensual? Did you rape somebody? Then I got a problem with it. Because that's coercion, that's duress, that's violence, that's slavery. You know? The whole point is we still have people in the movement to this day that think homosexuality is immoral. We have people to this day that, don't understand if you're killing another being when you don't have to, that is immoral. And it's highly polarizing. Most people, they're in a fervorous religious mindset. They don't understand that what I'm saying is not a fervorous religious mindset. I've transcended and freed my mind from those fervorous religious mindsets. They're too low in consciousness to be able to even comprehend that. And they will die in that condition, more likely. It's such a rarity that anyone has the personal strength and willpower and will take in the knowledge and work with the shadow work and the shadow material to transcend that condition. It's such a rarity in a human lifetime that happens in a human lifetime that we have to focus on people who do have the ability to move in consciousness first. And maybe we'll get to those people, but the biggest likelihood is those people will die while being in that same religious mindset and condition. And that's sad. That's sad because that's soul death. That means that there's been no soul progress. And most of them aren't even gauging anything based upon soul progress. Most of them are either atheistic tendencies, pure pragmatists, pure materialists, pure utilitarians. These are a lot of their mindset. And then some of them are actual religious people, like traditional religious dogma, and believe that this is ordained by God, that we're given dominion over the rest of nature. No, we're given dominion over ourselves. We're given stewardship over nature. Within nature is a better way of even saying it. Stewardship is different than dominion. What we have is dominion over the self. That's what we have. That's what sovereignty is. We don't have dominion over others. Never did, never could. See, that's what has to be understood. And Alex, it's a long haul down that path. We're very far from being collectively in a state of common sense and truth regarding it. It's very, very, very sad. It's very sad and can be very depressing. The thing that people have to do is just press forward. Teach the young. The young aren't as brainwashed. They're not as in religious dogma. Once religious dogma is calcified, that's hardened like diamond in most people. And sadly, that's why we got to get to the youth. We have to get to young people before that's calcified to a point where it can't be chiseled apart. It can't be broken with a hammer and chisel. It can't be broken with a sledgehammer. It can't be broken with a diamond tip drill. It can't be broken with a wrecking ball. That's where most people's mindsets are calcified to. And it's a terrible, terrible thing to see. And it's testimony to the number that religion has done upon the human mind. It's the most dangerous influence in the history of humanity. Religious thought. It's what I say is it's the one and only problem. The one and only problem is religious thought, whether it be the traditional religions or, as I have said, as people like Logan Hart have said, there are religions that aren't even thought about as religion. And that's part of the problem is people don't even see them as religions, like carnism. So, again, I don't know whether I'll go back and revisit that again. Probably not. I've said my piece on it. And I think it stands on its own, and it's very powerful and straightforward. And it's true. Whether anybody accepts it or not, what I've said regarding that is true. I wasn't always there. Look at how long it took me to transition just to get off of the addiction to cheese. And I know people who are still highly addicted to cheese. That's one of the hardest compounds to work out of the human diet and out of the human intake system is cheese. It's got some of the most addictive compounds in it. But people wouldn't think that. And, that was the roughest, not going to lie. I'm not going to tell you that was easy. It was hard. That was a lot of work, and I just had a great piece of vegan pizza the other day with vegan cheese. It was so impressive that I was floored by it. But I don't even do that constantly. It's just like a treat every once in a while, My point is, When it comes to religious mindsets like that, target people who are open-minded, target people who you think can move in consciousness, and target the young. Those are the people that have to be targeted with truth in general. And they're flexible. They have flexible brains. They're not calcified in the mind. So, Alex, thank you. Great question. Let's take another couple calls before the end of the show. Let's try Gilbert again. I tried him earlier. Let's see if he's resolved the audio issues. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Wonderful. Yes, we can. Can you just lower anything in the background, please? Just silence it.
Yeah, my
Yes,
bad.
no problem.
Okay, yeah, I was having some issues, but you're right about the technical stuff. I started a podcast thanks to you.
Okay.
It's called Freedom from Rulers, and you're right. There's some times where stuff doesn't work when it should.
And you got to power through it. You got to be persistent and power through it. Look, none of us at this stage are going to have a high tech crew, a highly skilled tech crew. We're largely going to be doing it ourselves, right? And when people go, oh, you having a problem is some sign that you're not really that good at tech. No, I'm extremely good at tech. I'm one of the best at tech. Okay? The problem is software is written so shoddily today that you can be perfect at what you do and there are still technical problems. It's software developers that are the fucking problem. Let's make no mistake about that. As a matter of fact, maybe not next week, I'm interviewing Brandon Martin. Maybe either 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that, I'm going to do another show on the state of software. I have to. Because I don't think people understand, number one, how intimately interconnected and intertwined and can never be separated. It's all balled up with freedom that technology is. If you don't understand technology in today's day and age, you are not in the war for freedom. Not really. Not really, not truly. You may think that you are. You may be involved in small ancillary capacities, but you're not really on the battlefield entrenched. Understand the difference. Yes, go ahead.
Can I give some advice for people? I started the Freedom from Rulers show. It's on YouTube and Rumble if you guys want to check it out. I interviewed, I know you know James Corbett from the Corbett Report.
Yep.
And I also have had G. Edward Griffin on.
Nice.
The legend.
Nice.
So, and also there's a guy called the Model Anarchist who's on Instagram right now.
Yes.
And he's got 50,000 followers, so he's doing his job.
Do me a favor.
And,
Gilbert. Please send me this link to the podcast. I'm going to check it out, and maybe we can onboard you onto One Great Work Network later this year.
That would be amazing, yeah. I'll send it to you. I think I have your email.
Great. And
I was going to give advice for people.
Yes.
If you want to do quick content on your mobile phone, there's an app called InShot. So it's just pretty much for... Yeah, InShot.
Okay.
So you're going to be...
And that's for people who have no other option. I'm going to say I don't recommend doing anything on a mobile device except calling people, maybe checking things if you're out. You need a desktop computer to do this kind of work. I even tell people in my seminar, a lot of people believe they need laptops. Almost no one needs a laptop. What they need in their house is a powerful desktop computer with a large monitor. This is what they've convinced people that they don't need. They've convinced people they do not need that. You need that. You need a decently powerful desktop computer with a large screen. And then you could really make a dent and an effort, and you could really get involved in the battlefield. If you don't have that, you're going to be fighting against yourself with small screens, non-powerful processors. Every single act that you do on that system is going to take far longer than if you're on a decently configured desktop with a large monitor. And that's 100% the truth and is not a matter of opinion. And everybody who's taken my seminar, who has taken the challenge, change your system, configure it like this, see the difference in your workflow, has said to me back, everyone who has done it, not who has challenged about it and said, oh, I don't think that's true, Mark. I might be able to get things done very efficiently on this or that or that. Every person who has actually taken my advice and done it came back and said, I can't believe how much more effective and efficient my work is. Everyone 100% who did it. So it's not a matter of opinion, it's factual. It's the matter of, will people actually put the resources into doing it? So Gilbert, real quick, tell people about your beginning experiences with getting involved in technology, because even if you weren't a very technical person, you're actively putting out a podcast. What was that like for you?
Yeah, well, I've always preferred PC. I know people say PC master race, so I was like a gamer in the beginning. But yeah, in terms of
just as a quick addendum to that, I don't have any problem with what platform people want to use. That's their own choice. If you're a Windows guy, if you're a Linux guy, if you're a Mac guy, it doesn't matter to me. As long as you know your craft on that platform, that's all that matters. So yes, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I'm on Windows. So in terms of creating content, I found DaVinci Resolve, and I know you guys talked about it on this podcast maybe a month ago. And
good
also,
software.
I learned how to use Yeah, it's good software, and it's free.
Yep.
I also learned how to use OBS Studio.
Yes.
And that's for screen recording. And
we stream One Great Work Network out using that software, OBS Studio. Good software. Yep. It's got all the features you need. Yep.
Yeah. Usually they work pretty well. I don't have too much issue. If there's an issue, it's on my computer part being slow.
Right. And that's why I'm saying a powerful desktop with a decent monitor, a nice large monitor, you're going to be able to see things clearly. You're going to have nice real estate to work on the screen. Have you taken How to Become the True Media?
No, I actually didn't.
No pressure. Just putting it out there. You may garner a whole new worldview when it comes to technology, should you take it. But just putting it out there, no pressure. And here's the thing. If we do take you onto One Great Work Network, you're grandfathered in for all One Great Work Network content creators are grandfathered into being allowed to take the course any year they want to take it for free. I give full scholarships and grandfather them in for the perpetuity of the seminar every year. If you're accepted as a content creator on One Great Work Network, every year you're allowed to take the How to Become the True Media seminar. I do that for all of our content creators.
That's great. So yeah, I mean, if people want to learn, I learned off YouTube, like just to get started, just the programs and DaVinci Resolve and OBS. There's a lot of little good tutorials out there. There's no excuse, pretty much. It's 2023.
There you go.
It's all out there.
Thank you for saying that. You're absolutely accurate. Send me the link to your podcast. I'll definitely check it out, and we'll bring you on One Great Work Network later this year, hopefully. Thank you,
awesome.
Gilbert.
Thank you, Mark. And I want to say I am a vegan thanks to you, so keep it up.
Thank you. You got it. All right. I think we might have time to squeeze one more in, but we're running out of time rapidly. Let's hear from Sean McCann. Sean, go right ahead.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
How you doing, Sean?
Very good, man. Thank you. And I want to say that I took your media class, and it helped me to understand a lot more, and it helped me in my production value of my show, and I'm infinitely grateful for that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say a little bit of a silver lining. I mean, you're talking about how nobody's really waking up, but if you look, you'll see that since the COVID tyranny has descended upon our culture, many less childhood vaccinations.
This is true.
And much more homeschool is happening.
That's also true.
I mean, they might not understand fully that they're enslaved or whatnot, but at least the attack isn't getting to as many kids.
That is a beginning. That's a beginning. That's important. That's protecting children, but some parents are definitely doing that, and that's something. That is one dynamic that has to be factored in and into the overarching dynamic of where consciousness is heading, and those factors are moving in a good direction. I agree with you completely.
That's great. I just wanted to give there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. It is turning slowly.
Yes.
I mean, and there have been many more podcasts, like your previous caller just started his podcast. Since the tyranny of COVID, people have been in front of their computers and their
It did wake some
been an
up. It did
explosion
wake
of
some up.
podcasts.
I agree, absolutely. So it's not all bad and negative. There are some positive dynamics. I'm talking about the overall progress.
Yeah, I agree with
we
you.
have to do better in that regard. But I'm not putting down people's efforts to, come out of the mind control when it comes to COVID, homeschool their children, put out some content. Those people, I'm not raging against them. I'm not saying that, they're the problem. We got to look at the overall dynamic and see where it's heading. But we can move it forward. It's possible. It's still possible in this late hour. It's still possible. Or I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Sean,
God
thank
bless
you so
Mark.
much.
Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That's all the time we have for this episode of What on Earth is Happening, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, government is slavery. We'll see you right here next week.